Islam. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and is subject to all inferior names, abuses, and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the name and principles that delude to slavery. At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer because this is the source from which we draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. First off, I'd like to rise to give praise to Allah. I like to give praise to Allah because this is Allah who is the Father of the universe. It is the Father of everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. I'd like to give honor to Allah's holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to give honor to Prophet Noble Drew Ali because this is he who founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913 AD for the express and profound purpose of uplifting fallen humanity. And he did these things by teaching you and me to be ourselves. So praise Allah and honor the prophet. But last but not least, again, I'd like to give honor to effort. I'd like to give honor to effort because so many of us don't even try. So many of us don't even listen to what the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali tells us, and even if we hear him, we're not strong enough to apply it. So at this time, I want to read from another chapter in the Moorish Holy Quran. And I want to read from this other chapter, and when I read it, I'm giving honor to this brother here. This brother here, name is Brother F. Nelson Bey. And this brother right here, I'm not even going to talk about him right now, but I have a lot of lessons to tell you about him because him and a brother named Rufus German Bey was real close. And German Bey used to go down to the colony all the time to sit with this brother and talk to him about the last prophet in these days and time. And I'm just going to read from the chapter because a lot of times you can't get into certain subject matters in public because if you do it in public, then you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, and we don't deal with feelings and emotions, but we deal with reason and logic. So I want to read from this book, the Moorish Holy Quran. This is the book from which we draw our strength. This is the book that we learn how to love instead of hate. So I want to read from chapter 3. And this chapter is about Elihu's lesson, the unity of life. And it's read on this wise. Again, Elihu met his pupils in the sacred grove and said, "No man live unto himself, for every living thing is bound by cord to every other living thing. Blessed art the pure in heart, for they will love and not demand love in return. They will not do to other men what they would not have other men do unto them. There are two selves, the higher and lower self. The higher self is human spirit, clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires is a reflection of higher self distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. The lower self is an illusion and will pass away. The higher self is Allah in man and will not pass away. The higher self is the embodiment of truth. The lower self is truth reversed, and so is falsehood manifest. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. The higher self is mother of virtues and harmonies of life. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. It gives me an apple that are lovely to the eye and pleasant to the smell. Their cores are full of bitterness and gall. If you would ask me what to study, I would say yourselves, and you well have studied them. And then would ask me what to study next, I would reply yourselves. He who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows of the things that pass away. And he who knows his higher self knows Allah, knows well the things that cannot pass away. Thrice blessed is the man who has made purity and love his very own. He has been ransomed from the pearls of the lower self and is himself his higher self. Men seek salvation from an evil that deem a living monster of the nether world, and they have gods that are but demons in disguise, all powerful, yet full of jealousy and hate and lust, whose favors must be bought with costly sacrifice of fruits of their lives, of birds and animals and humankind. And yet these gods possess no ears to hear, no eyes to see, no hearts to sympathize, no power to save. This evil is a myth. These gods are made of air and clothed with the shadow of a thought. The only devil from which man must be redeemed is self, the lower self. If man will find his devil, he must look within. His name is self. If man will find his Savior, he must look within. And when the demon self has been dethroned, the Savior love will be exalted to the throne of power. The David of the light is purity, who slays the strong Goliath of the dark and seeks the Savior love upon the throne. Thus we just had a reading from chapter 3 of the Moorish Holy Quran that divinely prepared by the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. I'm going to go into this chapter for a minute. And it talks about the higher self. And it says that the higher self breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. And it says the lower self is what the higher self is not. This is why in the Moorish Science Temple of America, you might see a brother today, or you might see a sister today, and you see them 10 years from now, or 3 years from now, they are not the same person that they once was. Because through scientific study and investigation, man becomes strong and overcome these things. And this is the only way that we're going to be able to stand with the prophet and do what the prophet say do. We're going to have to give these things up. The things of the lower world, we have to give up. He said in all the world, there are but two things. The one is truth, and the other is falsehood. And falsehood is that which seem to be. Now, truth is all, have no cause, and yet it is the cause of everything. Falsehood is naught, and yet it is the manifest of that which is not right, because that which has been made will be unmade, and that which is have a beginning must have an end. So it say a Muslim is one who submits his will to Allah. How do you submit your will to Allah? Well, when you submit your will to Allah, it's submitting your will to God. It's submitting your will to Jehovah. We have many different names because we speak different languages. But whatever language you speak in, if you live a moral and clean life, then you be close to the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. This is why Allah sent Noble Drew Ali. He couldn't have sent us nobody else. He had to send Noble Drew Ali because the things that Noble Drew Ali bought us for our life is what we needed to redeem us from our sinful ways. Now we say in all the world there's two selves. They say you got a higher self and they say you have a lower self. But the prophet Noble Drew Ali tells us, yes, we do have two selves, but we have to crush one of these selves. And we have to tame the other to the purpose. So which one do we have to crush? We have to crush the lower self. We keep talking about Satan, and we keep talking about the devil. These are attributes. These are thoughts. The only thought, the only strength that the devil has, the only strength that Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast have is the strength that we give them. You and me, we weak. We're weak because we don't have the strength enough to do what God say do. So I'm reading from either you's lesson, and we talking about the unity of life. We talking about the unity of love. We have 5 principles, and the 5 principles we have are love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So now we all going to the temple. We're going to the temple because this is where we get out our saving power. Our saving power comes from Allah through our ancient father by his prophet. So for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? For the uplifting of fallen humanity. And how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish America? By teaching them to be themselves. So who are you? If he's teaching you to be yourself, who are you? You're an Asiatic Muslim. You're an Asiatic Muslim because there's but 2 formulations. You have Asiatic and you have European. And you're sure not European. And you're Muslim because you submit your will to Allah. And when you submit your will to Allah, what are you submitting your will to? You're submitting your will to justice, mercy, love, and right. You're submitting yourself to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And you are undoing something that deals with the lower self, which is hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything in harm. So now the question is asked, why didn't we hear anyone saying anything about Moorish Americans being Muslims? Because to take money from a government, you have to begin to teach those things that's necessary for them to be able to make themselves better citizens and not you and me. Because you done took my birthright. You done buried my father in Vatican Square. You done took on a name. We come out of Spain. You done took on all of that. When you look through the book, we just look at Pele, or whatever his name was, the brother that played soccer. We're from, and where is he from? He's from the same place where Noble Drew Ali told us, right, that our flag was. He said the Negro River. And when you say the Negro River, you're in Brazil. Because when you begin to talk about Brazil, you're talking about Africa. You're talking about the cradle of civilization. You just took everything, put it in your pocket, claimed it, and now you got me looking like Negro colored and black. You done took everything that we have, you claimed it to be your own. But that's all right, because Allah, in his infinite wisdom, is in control. Allah, in his infinite wisdom, sent Noble Drew Ali. And I'm honored. I wasn't here with Noble Drew Ali, but I'm honored to be able to sit with certain brothers and sisters who sat with Noble Drew Ali. I got to reiterate what I said earlier on the show. I said that the sister told me at Moorish Home #1, she was the governor, her old little boyfriend, little husband, little old teeny little brother. They were sitting right there. But let me say something else she told me. There's a sister by the name of Sister Franklin Eel. And Franklin Eel was a sister that was living in Temple 21 in New York City. And she used to visit Moorish Home number 1 all the time because she's an old timer. And a lot of people down there was those that she started out with. We always talk about, when I used to talk to her, because they used to come in every week and help teach us, we used to always talk about the Lynch-Bey family. And a lot of people want to know, why do I talk about the Lynch-Bey family so much? And the reason why I do that is because Temple 13 was the Lynch-Bey family had Temple 13. Matter of fact, they had a building over there on Sharp Street. And German Bey showed him where a building was over there on Sharp Street. But let me tell you what transpired, and I want y'all to look at this, because our German Bey gave me a lesson. And the lesson that he gave me was that, you know, if you become a made man over here, you can't leave over here and go over there. Because the book says every subordinate temple under the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs as long as they're in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. So right now, me and Jones Bey don't get along. I don't like Jones Bey. You know, he said something to me that I didn't like. So now I'm going to leave him and go somewhere over there with somebody else when I know that's not the way that I was raised. Because the prophet didn't teach everybody the same thing. A lot of these lessons that we had came from mouth to ear. And when you begin to talk about the in-depth study of the prophet, it's from mouth to ear. That's why he's talking about the AC of the MSTFA and what are the words of the AC of the MSTFA, adapt chamber of the Moorish time to America, third heaven. Everybody don't have the same lessons because you get things according to your understanding. You get things according to your growth and development. So this brother, he taught me some lessons. And he told me about these Lynch-Bey brothers. And where I got another blessing at, I was about 30 years ago. A young Lynch-Bey brother named Cornelius Lynch-Bey, Salome's son. We was in a meeting together one time. And he got to talking. He said, Lynch-Bey, my grandfather said this, and my great uncle said that the prophet said this. And I said, yeah, Sheik. You got to understand that. Because everything come in degrees. He heard his grandfather, the prophet said this. Now the prophet said that. And both of them is right. Like, sir, stop, you both right. Because if the prophet tell me something, and he tell you something, if we get two different understandings of it, then that meant that you didn't hear the lesson like I heard it, or I didn't hear the lesson like you heard it. That's why it's very important that we understand that you got to give all this stuff up. It ain't but one temple. It ain't but one prophet. I know you got some brothers say that in 7 days, he say, I'm back. And I want to say that too. I want to say, I'm back. But the reason why I can't say I'm back, because the prophet Noble Drew Ali was gone 7 days. And 7 days after he was gone, you had 5 or 6 brothers jumped up and said, I'm back. Come on, man. Let's try to do the first one first. If then that don't work, I go with you. But after 7 days, the prophet was gone. When he put his work in the manifest. We ain't even did nothing. All we want to do is play with signs and symbols and say something else. Matter of fact, you prophet got a little old gravesite too. See? So life is beautiful. I heard Brother Jones Bey and Brother Anders Bey talk the other day when we was talking about reparation. See? You can't talk about reparation if you're not a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. You cannot get reparation if you don't talk about nationality and divine creed the way that Noble Drew Ali brought it to us. You can't become a Moorish American if you tell me to go down to some courthouse and all those people down there is the same ones that put the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the predicament that he in now, and you going to go down there and tell them that I won't proclaim my nationality. No, all you do is go to the Moorish Science Temple of America, just like I heard the old timers say. The leaders told us that we need to watch those Moorish Americans over there. Yeah, we do. We need to watch the Moorish Americans over there, but we need to proclaim our nationality. And if you see something that's not going as the prophet said it, then you do it. If something ain't going right, then you do it. Because we have a lot of work. I got a granddaughter. I have children. I have family. And we got to leave this stuff with them because we're on our way out. And the more we are on our way out, the less that this work ain't going to get done. Because the prophet said, many are called, only a few are chosen. See? And going back to what Cook Bay was saying, when he heard his two uncles in the meeting teaching, saying some things that they say that the prophet said, everybody ain't going to pick it up. See? You might get a different understanding than I get. But the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah. And he appoints to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. Hath he endowed thee with wisdom? Hath he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction? Communicated to the wise for thine own improvement. Let me go back down to the colony. Because I had a friend down there. He had a picture. He got a picture. He gone there, page year. He's on the picture with C. Kirkland Bay. And man, we went into some things about that red fez, that fez that C. Kirkland Bay wear. When the prophet told all the Moorish Americans, to get that stuff back to Rome. Take off that stuff. So Noble Drew Ali took it off and put on his fez. Now, there's a lot of brothers and there's a lot of sisters that was with Noble Drew Ali because in 1928, they didn't go through the whatever they had to go through, the certain kind of understandings of some things they didn't go through because you wasn't ready for it. You might be my interpreter, and you might be a grand sheik of a temple. But just because you're a grand sheik of a temple don't make you a sheik. That's why that brother had that book and they put it out, and they was talking about the first. They were talking about the first grand sheik that they knew. I'm not going to show. I've been showing too much stuff. But it's very important that we understand and get it right here. This brother here. So I got all this because I have to have it because my instructor tell me I have to have it. Just like right now. We are in the early 70s. I was the Grand Sheik then in Preparation Center number 7. When Cheney Bay and all them brothers up there in Temple 71 opened up the first temple. They opened up the first temple up there. Then they go through trials and tribulations in life, but those brothers and sisters are the ones that was doing the work. And a lot of brothers and a lot of sisters don't realize when the prophet disbanded the Supreme Grand Council, you left your blessings. So what we got to do, let me share something else too, it's important. Because Noble Drew Ali came, when he came on, he brought us this book here, The Easy Stress Prosper. He brought us all kind of things, tell us to eat right, tell us what not to eat, what to eat, told us don't eat no scavenger. And a lot of Moorish Americans was doing that. That's why the prophet came out with the oil, teas, and compound, because, there wasn't nothing else to eat. We live on them places and eat. So he said, eat that, but take this oil, teas, and compound. But now that you got something to eat, then leave that stuff alone. But that's why he brought that to you and me. The Holy Prophet know what he was doing because he was sent from Allah. And you can't even poison a pig if the worstest snake in the world bit a pig. What the pig gonna do, he gonna swell up, and in a couple of days, he gonna go back down. So Noble Drew Ali taught certain Moors this lesson to really give it to you and me. I remember, she's still living too. Mabel's Bay and them, we was on the colony, Moorish home number 1 down there. We was on the home, and I was teaching a lesson on eating pork. And I got looked at like I was crazy. They looked at me like I was crazy. Tell me, Paul, are you crazy? But I understood because the prophet did things in spurts. He taught in spurts. You have Moors that get together and sit down and talk. I was saying earlier when Brother Weaver Bay out of Hartford, Connecticut, Temple 35, At that time, everybody was still wearing the white medallion. But when German Bey, White Bey, Countryman Bey, and all of us had that meeting up there, you know, he said, man, give me one of these because there was white before. He said we started wearing them dark because of the dark days which was sure to come. And that's here today. Because the prophet said the movement would go so low, you think it vanished from the face of the earth. You look up and see nothing but turban and fez. Pleasant Bey, my brother, he bumped his head a little bit, but Pleasant Bey got a lot of lessons. He got a lot of stuff. He didn't change it. He have a lot of stuff. He even knew that this was the first Sheik. He knew that this brother was a Sheik before certain other people because of certain things they had to leave with somebody. They had to leave certain things, and sometimes they know who to leave it with. So we need to understand that the Grand Sheik, especially in Washington, D.C., you need to pull your brothers together. The reason why we're the way that we are now is because you sitting back and you just worried about this. Like I shared this thing earlier, when you talk about Brother W. Waste Ill. Brother Waste Ill was the first Grand Sheik in Washington, D.C. He's the Grand, he lived at a 4th and N, right where I lived at. He was teaching nationality old timer. He was on all them brothers. McDowell, Ben, all them brothers. He was older than them. Now let me give you a lesson. There's a brother by the name of W. Blakely Bey. And Brother Blakely Bey was in the Moorish Science Temple. And he had another brother named McDowell Bey. And there was two other brothers, V. Jones Bey out of Temple 78, and Brother J. Frazier Bey out of Temple 78. J. Frazier Bey is the Grand Mufti. So in having my conversation with Loveville, because we was talking about building up the colony, Moorish home number 1, Moorish home number 2, because we have the land, and we can start having function down there and everything. But when I got a call down there by Page Hill and them, they took all the wood down and everything. Took all the wood and Sheik her. So we have a lot of work to do. Allah and the Prophet put everything in front of us because right now they got their feet on our neck. They think they do, but Allah alone is guiding the destiny of this divine and national movement. That's why you look around and see some brothers, they got airplanes. They have everything because the government gives it to you because you conducive to their growth and their development. You don't even talk about nationality. Everybody have a nationality. If you listen to a Chinese, he's going to talk about nationality. If you talk to anybody, they're going to talk about nationality like it was in the meeting today. But you don't have too many people talking about nationality that used to be in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Because if you don't proclaim your nationality, that's why I say all members must proclaim their nationality. And we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names was given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. And all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwest and the southwestern shores of Africa. When Queen Isabella came into office, a lot of you youngsters weren't even born. But I remember because I was born. And I was living when she came into office. But one of the things she did when they say Morocco did not get their independence to March 2nd, 1956, is because they crushed that. They crushed you and me, who was the first nation to have a treaty with the United States. They crushed all that. And the reason why they crushed it is because they took it. Every time you look at something, when I was in Vietnam, we took stuff. And that's what you did to me. You just took my nationality. That's why I give Noble Jew Ali honor, because I'm wearing this black fez. And this black fez is talking about the law. A lot of people go running around telling me you only wear white fez. Red fez. But brother, Prophet Noble Jew Ali, his first mufti was the brother that come out of Temple 13 in Baltimore. German Bey cried. Lynch-Bey did not want to leave the grand body of C. Kirkland Bey because of the information that he had. But when that brother in Temple 21 told him that you had some people that should learn about the prophet, they called Lynch-Bey and said, man, we got some brothers here in Leicester, Kentucky, most of them out of Washington, D.C., teach them. So it started in 54. In 1954, we took it to the convention. And then the convention said, we ain't taking no teaching of the prophet until side them penitentiaries to no convicts. Happened in 55. So we're not taking the teachings of the prophet in there to no convicts. So he broke away in 56 and started teaching those brothers out of Washington, D.C. about their nationality and their divine creed. I'm in pictures with all of them because they was around me. And the reason why they was around me because they stayed in jail. They got out, come back in, but them brothers over there in Washington, D.C., that temple they had over there, what you didn't realize, half of them went in jail. They got out of Lexington, Kentucky, and went up there and did the work, and they ain't go back into jail no more. That's why you always talk about Hatchet Bay. You talk about them dudes that wasn't the Sheiks in the Moorish temple. They did that in the penitentiary. But when they got out, they ain't go nowhere near it. I mean, we ran down on him 2 or 3 times because he's right there by Hanover and base where I come up at. So it's very important. It's very important that we get an understanding of what's taking place with us as a people. Because as I said, from 711 to 1492. But in 1492, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and the Germans came. See? No, it wasn't the German, was it? Who was it? Somebody came because the foundation of the Romans came. The Roman nations came. And when the Roman nations came, this is where Christianity came. That's why we start right now. You go to any church, and you can see that cross up there. You can see it up there. But our people that's into the cross, a lot of them is living a moral and clean life. They don't have the signs because they're blind, but they're trying to walk with God. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to live a moral and clean life. I'm by myself. I don't have nobody. I'm telling you, let me share something which is very important. I had a partner of mine. Now I'm not going to get into so much stuff I want to talk about. But let me read something else that the prophet gave us. And it's important that I read it. And we need to hear this. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to read chapter 45. And this chapter 45 is from the Moorish Holy Quran. And the reason why I want to read this to you is because you call yourself a black man. You call yourself a colored man. You call yourself a Negro. So Noble Drew Ali said that man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there is no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So I'm going to read this chapter 45, the divine origin of the Asiatic nation. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nations of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for the teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations, the Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. Now, we talking about the ancient Moabites. We talking about the Moabites. We talking about the Moabites of those who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. This is who we're talking about. We're talking about the slave trade. And a lot of people frowned up when I talk about it, but it's an issue that we got to talk about. This is why the Grand Sheik was talking the other day of him and brother Adil. They was talking about brothers talking about reparation. But you don't want reparation because you want to be Negro, colored, and black. You don't want reparation. You like where you live. You like how you living. You like the way that you living. But Noble Drew Ali bought us something that will save us from the wrath of Allah. So then let me finish. It said the Egyptians, who were the Hammatites and a direct descendant of Mizraim, the Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese, and Chinese. I mentioned Chinese and Japanese not too long ago. We just had a meeting with one. And they scholars checked the DNA because they thought that the Chinese was greater and stronger than anybody on earth. So they got the DNA and they went to look at it. And when they looked at the DNA, they looking to see and find out that there's no nation on earth that was as strong as the Chinese. And they came back that the Chinese came from the Moorish Americans. Because the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Let me finish this. The Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, and Moabites from the land of Canaan. Now, you know, this is what we were talking about earlier. These are things that Noble Drew Ali brought us. He brought us these lessons so we could teach these lessons to our little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. And if we know who we are and who our forefathers were, then this is a lesson that we could teach our little ones. And this is why we cannot even talk about reparation. If you keep calling yourself a black man, if you keep calling yourself Negro, if you keep calling yourself colored, we cannot address the issue. He said, there's but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost. So let me finish reading. It says the Asiatic nations and countries in North, South, Central America, the Moorish Americans and Mexicans in North America, Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans in South America. That's the same thing I'm talking about Brazilian. I'm talking about Brazil now. You know, when you say the Negro River, when you look at Brazil now, Brazil is somebody else. Everybody else thinks Brazil is just for Europeans. They took it. They took everything that belonged to you and me. Everybody know it. It ain't a rare. What about our forefathers? What have our forefathers and foremothers went through? And let me finish reading this. It said the Colombians, the Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador in Central America, etc., all of these are Muslims. You hear that? You hear that? Now they're talking about in other countries now. Because they say ain't no Muslims in the United States of America. Because the only one came and told you that you wasn't Negro, black, and colored was Noble Drew Ali. Wasn't nobody else Muslim. Look at the record. You still getting caught up in an illusion. Look at the record. Before 1930, who was calling himself? Drew Ali came in 1913. And he told us in 1913 that we was Muslim. He told us in 1913 that we wasn't Negro, colored, and black. Now, if Noble Drew Ali told us this in 1913, he waited until he passed, and then in 1930, them other dudes rose up, the one that took that money, now they telling you and me that we black. And we need the help of humanity. I was in a meeting today with two women. One of them is Chinese, and one of them is of African descent. And we was talking today, but they know that you are who you were. They know that we said that we was Muslim because that's the foundation. The foundation of Christianity began in Rome. It was the Roman nation found the first church of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth, seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke of law. Now let me read something else. It said the Turks are the true descendants of Hagar, who are the chief protectors of the Islamic creed of Mecca, beginning from Muhammad the first. Let me stop right here. Do you hear this? See? You only get into this part of it. You hear what he's telling us? He's giving you the history of who you are and who your forefathers were and what was taken away from you and what was taken away from me. So now I'm growing too. I'm trying to overcome. I'm trying to live a moral and clean life. I want to walk like my forefathers walked. I want to walk like my foremothers walked because I don't want to walk like nobody else. Because it's been rough, man. You know, I have a lot of friends that was incarcerated and did a lot of things. Man, they done been carried and people, it's hurt. So we're going to have to put this in the babies. See, we have to put these lessons in our babies. We got to stop them from cussing. We got to stop them from doing things that's diametrically opposed to what God said. And we have to tell them to learn to love instead of hate. See, we have a song. And the song that we sing, the children sing it. And when the children sing it, they talking about, let's get close to God. And see, when we talking about get close to God, because when you look today, and most of all these brothers and sisters, they take Jesus and put Jesus on the back burner, saying Jesus had nothing to do with Africa, when everybody knows that when you begin to talk about Moorish American Muslims, that we was those that lived a moral and clean life. We are those that was Muslims. We was those that lived according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Now, Muslim is one who live according to the word of Allah. Now, who is Allah? Allah is the Father of the universe. Allah is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So now, if Allah is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and He's teaching you and me to be ourselves, then something ain't right. We done took on some concepts, and we done took on some ideologies that had nothing to do with you and me. I got a friend of mine. He told me how much he loved the prophet, how much he loved God. But I told him, because I'm telling myself, if you say that you love Allah, if you say you love a prophet, you got to stop all those things necessary that won't make you a better citizen. You got to give these things up. Every day you looking for a better connect, and you got $1 million already. Take that and make $1 trillion out of it. But give your life a will and sacrifice. You can't serve two masters at the same time. You want to serve two masters at the same time, but you can't serve the two masters at the same time. You have to love one and despise the other, because one of them is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The other is the Father of hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harm. You can't be both of them. You can't serve two masters at the same time. You have to love one and despise the other. So we need to teach this, because all of our people, when we begin to talk about the foundation of Christianity beginning in Rome, all of us who accept the religion of that is not the same religion of your forefathers, divine and national principle. Man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there is no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So now, I want to learn to love instead of hate. How can you learn to love instead of hate? You do that by teaching the people to be themselves. Now, what self is you teaching the people to be? You said man got two selves. Which one is he? Is he a high self, or is he his lower self? And which one do you feel more comfortable in? Because man can't serve two masters at the same time, because you have to take on other religions, and you have to take on other things that's diametrically opposed to what your forefathers say, because you can't live that life. If you live that life, then you're going to have your body in it, and your body going to be in the church, or your body is going to be over there with your Catholic church, in the Catholic church, because you might well go on over there and take your family over there. And if I know that I'm living hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything in harm, I'm going to let you go and bury me where you want to bury me anyway, because there's no one going to come to my funeral. What are you going to talk about? What is there to talk about me when you say I'm Moorish American? Did you pay your dues? Have you kept in line with all the necessities? Is you living according to the laws of the prophet? Because he gave us certain laws that we got to live according to. And we got to understand this is the purpose of Sunday school. Say, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America found? For the uplifting of fallen humanity. And how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish American? By teaching them to be themselves. Who are you then? You say you're an Asiatic Muslim? Okay, you're Asiatic Muslim. Why are you Asiatic Muslim? Because there are two formulations, Asiatic and European. And you sure are European. And you are Muslim because you submit your will to Allah. So now we're looking at everything. We're looking at the whole world. The only thing that grow in Europe is wheat and hay. We're talking about the European nation. And guess what? We told the European nation to learn to love instead of hate, because this is for you too. These teachings for all those who love Jesus. Don't take my Jesus from me, but our teachings are for all those who love Jesus and desire to know about his life, works, and teachings. And he said, dear fathers, by these lessons, you could set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. Dear mothers, by these lessons, you could teach these lessons to your children now, that they may learn to love instead of hate. So when you begin to learn to love instead of hate, what you're doing, you honoring the creed and principles of your mothers and fathers, and you have stopped serving the gods of Europe, of whom you knew nothing. Because we're saying that the whole world was called Asia. My goddaughter, Larry, named my granddaughter Asia. And when you begin to talk about Asia, you're talking about the name of the world. Because Asia and Europe, one of them got to go. It's two of them. One of them is Asiatic, and one of them is European. And we sure not European. And we're not European because we submit our will to Allah. And how do we submit our will to Allah? By teaching love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We love our brothers and sisters. We tell them the truth. That they live in peace, have freedom, and justice will come to us all. So you can't serve two masters at the same time. I know we want to do a whole lot of things. There's a whole lot of things that we want to do, and there's a whole lot of things that we feel comfortable in doing. But let's do what our forefathers say do. Let's do what our foremothers say do. Let's learn to love instead of hate. Let's learn how to live according to justice, mercy, love, and right. Let's clean ourselves up. Let's live a moral and clean life. Let's quote the prophet's teachings. Let's teach the things that the prophet gave us to make us better citizens. Like I like to reiterate, you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, you're outside of the Constitution. If you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, you're outside of the Constitution. Guess what? The prophet said, Negro, a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. Colored. Colored is anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed, even tinted. And what is black? Black, according to science, means death. Now, a lot of people think it's something slick. You looking real dark, and you tell me, I'm black, and you're not black. You're not who your forefathers were. I know you can take on a million names that you want to take on, but through the advent of slavery, Allah sent Juali. He didn't send nobody else. He sent Noble Juali to redeem you and me from our sinful way. I remember in 1928, this is a brother I mentioned his name, Sheik Bey. Sheik was telling me about that. And they went over in the east, and this brother was his interpreter. And you had a lot of different brothers and sisters. Well, everybody there was Asiatic though. There wasn't no black people there. Was nobody in this meeting calling themselves black because everybody had a nationality. And we began to have a nationality when Noble Drew Ali came. That's why at the third day of the first convention, Noble Drew Ali had a little boy and he had a little girl. He put the boy in one of them and put the girl in one of them and wrapped the flags around both of them and said, now you are a nation of people. See, you can't be a nation of people if you call yourself black because there's no such people. We went in the advent of slavery in 1711 to 1492 and all the way up to 1492. Before the slave trade, we was all right with that. But then, when they came in, they took that from you and me. They started calling you, and they started calling me black. because black, according to science, means death. And the only black flag I know is the one that kills roaches. And if you call yourself black, then that's who you are. You're a roach. Because you're who your forefathers were, but not are. Because they took the money. I like to reiterate. You hear it all the time. It's on. And then that picture that we just showed about the dude's card over there in Detroit, probably by next year, because you know I show a lot of pictures. We're going to show some pictures. We're trying to give you some play. That's why you got a little young brother that was on the air recently. And when he was on the air recently, brother was telling him that he wasn't black, but you can't teach him because you don't know yourself. You go there, you went down there to some courthouse, and then you can tell another man he's black and you can't even explain it. No, but you will explain it. What's your nationality? Why are you Moorish American? Why are you Moorish American and not Moroccan American? Because we know the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Now we're looking at Ruth. We're going back to look at Ruth, the book of Ruth. And when you look at Ruth, who is Ruth? We're going back to her because we were talking about the two pillars. And these are things that we have to bring back to life because they took that away from us, and they got all these brothers and they got all these sisters dialoguing on this same information that Drew Ali gave us because Drew Ali got it from Allah. Allah gave it to him. And before 1453 Byzantine, because I say 711, this is when we went into Spain. The Moors went into Spain. And we went into Spain because Europe was in the dark. Man, you should be surprised at things that they was doing. You surprised about the licking and the sucking and all those things that they doing. And they're all my brothers. And all my sisters is doing the same thing. I remember a brother named Earl Coleman Bay. I talked to him not too long ago. His mother was talking to this dude. She was talking to this friend of hers, and he started talking. And you get mad, Earl, make a deal. I'm trying to give a lesson on you, brother. And she was talking to a guy, but he was trying to talk to her about those things that they do in Europe. She went into her house. They're older than me. And she went into the house, took all of the dishes, all of the plates, and everything, and threw it out the house and threw it in the garbage. Because that's nasty. For somebody to lick another woman and do all that, that's not what we did. We are Muslims. We submit our will to Allah. Now, if you say you're Christian, then I can understand why you do it. I love you too, because Allah is love. And through scientific study and investigation, you'll be what you know. But this is not what our forefathers brought. We would learn to love instead of hate. We were trying to live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And a Muslim is one who submits his will to Allah. How do you submit your will to Allah? By living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We love our brothers and sisters, and we tell them the truth. That they live in peace, have freedom, and justice will come to us all. Now, when you're talking about dealing with justice, you're dealing with is upright, equal, and fair. So we're trying to live a moral and clean life. See, if you live a moral, and see, right now, I was just talking about my brother, Levance Green Bay. This brother's in the Moorish San Antonio America over 50 years, and they married him in somewhere else. And that's because of you and me. That's our fault. We're supposed to prepare a place for him. And if he come again, we receive unto ourselves. We got to teach these things. You say that you're Moorish and that you love the prophet. Let's get out there on the battlefield and teach these lessons to our little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. Show them who Allah is. Show them that Allah is God. Show them that Allah is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And he teaches those things necessary to make us better citizens. I say better citizens because all Moorish American Muslims are citizens. And that's why the two flags we have, we don't say Moroccan, we say Moorish. Because you took that from me, gave it to yourself, and you're going to have to give it back. So it's always an honor. It's always an honor to come through here for a few minutes and just get a chance to talk about nationality and divine creed, because that's what we need to do. We need to teach our people to learn to love instead of hate and tell them about your character, how Allah blessed you in your character. Because the way that we used to be, we ain't that way no more. The things we used to do, we don't do no more. They got a song called Great Change. And in this song, Great Change, it say the things I used to do, the places I used to go, the friends I used to have, there's a great change since I've been born. And man, I've been through this, but I just didn't want to pay it no mind. And I got to start paying mine now. See, because the prophet said, pay mine to it. Here's the literature here. The prophet brought us so much, and we have so much to teach. That's why Sunday school is so important. The prophet said, out from your Sunday school come the guidance of the nation. Now, how can you tell the guidance of the nation? Because he lived according to the divine constitution and bylaws. The additional laws, the questionnaire, the one-on-one, and all of these lessons that we are taught by the Sheik so we can give these lessons to our little ones. Because they want it and they need it, that they may learn to love instead of hate. So I'm always honored, again, to be able to just come by here and just say a few things about nationality and divine creed, because you don't get a lot of that. You don't get a lot of people talking about nationality because they still call themselves Negro, colored, and black. They've been used. I don't mind being used, but don't misuse me. You using me by telling me that I'm Negro, that I'm colored, and that I'm black. But black, according to science, means death. And again, the only black flag I know is kill roaches. So at this time, I recite the Moorish American prayer because this is the source from which we draw our strength. May Allah continue to bless you, and I thank you for this divine blessing. At this time, I recite the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Wade in the water, wade in the water, Marlin, wade in the water, Drew Ali done trouble the water. Praise Allah, on the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. None can serve two masters at the same time. Peace.